Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David.
My name is Zach.
And this is where we talk all things Star Wars. Zach, how is it going, man?
It's going, man. It's a little depressing up here in Michigan. It's getting colder sooner because the sun's going down sooner from the time change, and the cold weather is creeping in. And I'm not ready for the winter that's coming. But that's definitely dampening my spirits on the daily, unfortunately. But other than that, things are good, man. How about you?
Yeah, we're in polar opposite spots in the country. I'm still in South Texas. It's still not cold. It's November. It's almost Thanksgiving, and I'm still wearing shorts and a t-shirt. So,
man, lucky.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. I love the cold, ironically. But before we get started, we always like to give a shout out to all of our awesome Patreon supporters out there. Darth Ace 1, Liam McCallion, Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Zach Netzel, Maya Morris, Maka Tautala, Adam Haber, Brad Mackey, Front Row King, and Darth Beard. Thank you so much for your awesome love and support out there. I think maybe a couple of them are watching us right now live. It's been a while since we've gone live. We've had a lot of other commitments, a lot of other life things going on. So yeah, this is our first live podcast since I think we did the recap of our SpaceCon adventures there.
For sure.
And also, I do want to mention that Legion Sabers is working with us. Go to legionsabers.com and use the code STUFF at checkout for 15% off. If you spend over $300, you get a free lightsaber until Black Friday now. Before it was until Halloween. Now they've extended it to Black Friday. So that's pretty awesome. I've used the code personally. I've used STUFF at checkout for my 15% off. I got that. And I got the extra lightsaber. So I'm just waiting on that to be shipped so I can show everyone. They gave me one of the demo sabers to play around with. It's awesome. Once you get the hang of it, once you figure out how it works, I actually had it Halloween night outside when my daughter was giving candy. I was just swinging it around, and everyone was like,
it's
"Oh
fun.
my gosh, that's so cool!"
Yeah,
and that's usually what I do. I usually hang outside with the lightsaber because I don't look like a complete crazy person outside like a grown man with a lightsaber. I actually can get away with it. But yeah, Legion Sabers. It's the best lightsaber that you can buy. That's a reasonable price.
Yeah.
That's the closest thing to an actual lightsaber. And when I first saw one of those sabers, held it in my hand, ignited it, I was like, wow, I instantly fell in love with it. So yeah, definitely check out the website, legionsabers.com. In case you need a little bit of help, this is what the website looks like. When you first initially go to it, you get a free bracelet saber with $300 in your purchase until Black Friday. So there you go. Here's a logo for them. You see in the top, one of the top corners there. But yeah, great guys. They're probably going to be in Japan with us. So look out for that. I'm not sure exactly if they're going to have a booth or if they're just going to be hanging out with us. But I'm pretty sure we'll have more adventures like we did at SpaceCon. So
super cool.
Tons of huge news dropped in this past week. I mean, everything from a brand new trilogy to Rey being a part of the Rey movie, but it's kind of confusing because in the beginning we were told that Rey was going to have a small part in this new Rey film that people keep talking about, but there's a new report out there stating that she's going to be the mentor figure for that film, which is I think what we were initially told, but also the John Williams documentary, we haven't talked about that yet. Some Black Series stuff dropped, and also we wanted to remember a legend from Star Wars that passed away. But first, yeah, definitely we want to talk about this story about Simon Kinberg, who I'm very familiar with. I know he's done a lot of stuff, especially in the X-Men movie realm. And of course, he was a producer on Rebels. And I'm going to read this article here that talks about the assumed role, because this isn't officially announced by Lucasfilm, so we all got to keep that in mind. So this is from Variety.com, a place that we trust. The article states why Lucasfilm entrusted Simon Kinberg to pilot the next Star Wars movies. When news broke on Thursday that Simon Kinberg, best known for being a writer, producer, director, or all of the above on much of the X-Men franchise, had been hired by Lucasfilm to write and produce a new Star Wars trilogy. It came as a surprise to many executives at Lucasfilm and Disney. The project is considered internally to be in deep development and not nearly ready to be made public. There was also some surprise within the wider industry that Lucasfilm had turned to Kinberg as the newest steward of Star Wars on the big screen. According to multiple industry sources with experience working in the franchise space, Kinberg is seen on one level as a sensible and safe choice. That's what it also feels like to me. Starting with the 2005's XXX State of the Union and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, his films as a screenwriter have grossed more than $3.3 billion worldwide. Beyond the X-Men films, he's also produced Cinderella, The Martian, and Kenneth Branagh's 3 Hercules films, all to ample success. He's said to understand how to talk to film executives about franchise filmmaking in a way that allies their concerns about creative decisions affecting the costly bottom line for these kinds of projects. On another level, however, Kinberg is regarded by some as considerably risky bet. Dark Phoenix, his directorial debut in 2019, this is the film I always think of when I think of Simon Kinberg now, was the lowest grossing and the worst reviewed film of the X-Men franchise to that point. Kinberg also produced the final X-Men movie, The New Mutants, which was delayed so frequently due to an inauspicious brew of creative concerns and Disney's acquisition of the 20th Century Fox that the film wound up getting dumped as the first major wide release during the pandemic.
Yep.
Now that X-Men is firmly under the auspices of Marvel Studios, Kinberg has labored to recreate his earlier success. His next and to date last effort as a director, 2022 spy thriller, The 355 with Jessica Chastain, was a financial disaster, grossing just $18.9 million worldwide. Lucasfilm, meanwhile, has faced substantial difficulty launching a comprehensive film slate following 2019 Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker to date. Only The Mandalorian Grogu, a spinoff of the popular Disney Plus series The Mandalorian, has received an official green light. So given Kinberg's recent track record, what would lead Lucasfilm to enlist him to pilot a new fleet of Star Wars movies? One major factor, says one source with knowledge of the deal, is Kinberg's continuing creative relationship with Lucasfilm creative executive Carrie Beck and Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni, who both worked with Kinberg on the well-regarded 2014-2018 animated series Star Wars Rebels. Lucasfilm chief Kathleen Kennedy, however, was the one who made the outreach to Kinberg about making a live-action Star Wars movie. She'd already brought him into the Star Wars fold once in 2012 as part of the brain trust with screenwriters Michael Arndt and Lawrence Kasdan to map out early ideas for Disney's first 3 Star Wars movies, work that was largely discarded after 2015 Star Wars The Force Awakens. Kinberg was tapped again in 2018 to write a standalone Boba Fett feature with director James Mangold, but they were never able to submit a full script. The box office failure of Solo, A Star Wars Story, that year, coupled with Disney's new mandate to create content for its upcoming streaming service, caused Kennedy to shift the studio's Star Wars strategy away from standalone movies. The Boba Fett film was canceled just months after Mangold and Kinberg were hired. Studio insiders also stress that while media reports have claimed that Kinberg's Star Wars movies will continue the Skywalker saga as episodes 10, 11, and 12, the films are in their most nascent stage. Kinberg's efforts are meant to create a new saga, but as the case with virtually all script development, specific plot details and characters are light years away from taking their final shape, let alone arrive in theaters. Kinberg is also already committed to helping revive another celebrated sci-fi franchise that has hit a fallow period, signed on to produce what Paramount aims will be its next Star Trek movie, directed by Toby Haynes and written by Seth Grahame-Smith. And Kinberg is producing Edgar Wright's The Running Man with Glenn Powell, which Paramount has slated for November 2025. Given the abundant time and commitment it takes to mount one Star Wars movie, let alone 3, whatever Kinberg's Star Wars movies wind up being, they are likely far, far away into the future. So, guys, Colin, you just joined. What do you think about this potential trilogy? What do you think about the rumors that it's 10, 11, 12? What do you think about Simon Kinberg helming a trilogy?
Well, first off, I want to say that was a long article you just read there. My goodness.
A lot of data, a lot of info.
Yeah, geez. Second, I would have to say that with the whole aspect of them, doing that, I gotta say is I don't want a Skywalker trilogy. I don't want another one. I don't want them to do episode 10 through 12. I think episode 9 was it. I don't think they need to continue anymore with any of the Skywalker saga in Interior. I think it's been done. I think we should move on to new things like Star Wars The Old Republic. That is a fan favorite. People would freak out if they announced that. They'd be incredible. You can also do live action Clone Wars. Well, that's probably going to happen. There's so many other things to do. I really don't see, unfortunately, I really don't see the point of them continuing that area on. And it's not that I didn't like the characters, because I did enjoy Rey, I did enjoy Finn and Poe and all of them, but I think that story's been told. I don't think we need to continue down that road anymore. I think we need more new content that does not directly involve the Skywalkers. I think we've been down that road. I think, there was a lot of mixed reviews, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But with that being said, I think it would be great if we went down a different path that would lead us to content such as the Old Republic, live action Clone Wars, something like that would just draw more people in. I don't think continuing after the sequels is the best call. But at the end of the day, I'm a Star Wars fan, and I will be in the theater with all of you. But that's just my opinion. But yeah.
Zach, what do you think?
I line up with Colin's thoughts a lot. Continuing on with like an episode 10, 11, 12, I think there'd be cool plot points to pull from that potential story that whether it's the Rey movie or these 3 movies where it's not necessarily labeled as the continuation of episode 9. And I know there've been articles or an article on Bespin Bulletin about Rey having a potential Obi-Wan Kenobi-esque role in either her upcoming movie or this new trilogy. That's something I'd be down to see, just some more continuation of Rey. I think there's a lot more of her character that fans want to see and are eager to see. That's something I think would be cool, but I also try to take it with a grain of salt, because I personally feel like some of the announcements that come out, I try not to get my hopes up too much.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that get postponed, canceled indefinitely, or quietly swept under the rug, or I don't know. I guess you could kind of take your pick. And I mean, obviously, The Mandalorian was a huge hit, so they announced the movie and they're jumping right on it, which makes sense. I get it. It's going to get butts and seats. But like you said, Colin, we're all Star Wars fans. We'll go see what they put out. But at the same time, I'm trying to take it with a grain of salt. Like you said, David, it's not officially been announced by Lucasfilm, so there's that element to this as well. But yeah,
that's my other thing too, man. Because of it's just in these past couple of years, they have announced we are doing a film with Taika Waititi. We are doing a Rian Johnson trilogy. We're doing a show called The Droid Story. We're doing Rogue Squadron, and it's like I get it. I understand. You wanted to get the hype up. You wanted people to talk about it, and I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. But where are the results?
Right.
Like, where are they? And it just gets frustrating when they announce things like this. And I get it. There's a lot happening behind the scenes, and I understand. It's just I would rather have them wait to announce. Oh, Adam, how dare you? Colin, what if it starts episode 10, the rise of Rebo? Are you in then? Probably not. I'm not gonna lie with you, Adam. Probably not. But no, it's just I would rather have them wait to announce anything until they have a cast, until the script is completely finished, and they actually have a date where they are going to start filming. That is when you announce stuff. That is when stuff should be leaking.
Right.
Because
Lucasfilm hasn't announced anything yet. This was like a leak or
right. But I'm just saying in general, because do you remember back in 2020, like all that news dropped, and because we didn't get Star Wars Celebration that year, and they were like, we are doing the Taika Waititi film is like in development, and then there was like the Ryan Johnson trilogy was in development, and then you had all these other shows that are in development, and then we never heard anything of it again. They were just announced, and it was frustrating because it's like, why on earth would you announce that if you didn't even have a cast, a script, or anything? Why on earth would you announce that? Like, it's just so disappointing.
Yeah, I think later on we found out why, and it was like kind of like not a big news story, but essentially there was a mandate, like from Bob Iger to just we gotta do something, guys. You gotta announce whatever you got, and that's how we got like the Lando series and Taika's film, and Taika's film seemed to be off, then on again, and I've seen reports that it's on again, so maybe something is gonna happen. But as for me, I mean, I want the episodic films to continue, no matter what, even if there's no Skywalker stuff involved or whatever. But I agree with Colin in that that's not the move right now, per se. But the Kinberg stuff, if he does develop it, and I've seen a lot of reports stating that it's going to be like brand new characters, kind of like what they told us about Ryan Johnson's trilogy. So, like, what's the story there? If Ryan Johnson finishes his Knives Out stuff, is he coming back to Star Wars? Has he been working on it and he just hasn't been talking about it? Because you got to think about it, guys. If you're creating a trilogy from scratch, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of effort. Yeah. I always point back to Peter Jackson doing the live action Lord of the Rings. He didn't create any of that stuff, but he needed like years and years and years of prep to get everything ready to do 3 films back to back to back. So, I mean, it's a huge undertaking, man. Simon Kinberg, when I hear that name, I think about that X-Men film with Oscar Isaac, who played Apocalypse, and it was just not good. He directed that film. He's not really a director, but according to the report, he's going to write and direct this trilogy. I like the fact that it's hopefully going to be like one person with the plan, like kind of overseeing everything. But other than that, I mean, he's a busy guy. He's one of these guys that has his like fingers in everything. I mean, we all know he worked on Rebels. He produced that. He worked on just about all the X-Men films. And he's doing the new Running Man movie with Glenn Powell that's coming out. It's all cool and everything. But like we said in the past on the podcast, we want our people like laser focused on Star Wars to make sure it's the best possible thing that they're creating, and not just like, let's try and get some profits. Let's get a paycheck. We really need someone in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe Simon Kinberg working on Rebels, I guess. I don't know how much time he spent with Dave Filoni, if Dave Filoni was able to pour, anything into him in terms of, I guess the Master Apprentice analogy is used all the time with George Lucas and Dave Filoni. I don't know if that's the trend that they're trying to follow with potentially Simon Kinberg being one of those, I guess, air quotes students, but it would be cool to see if there was, maybe Dave sees something in Simon Kinberg that was kind of more behind the scenes with Rebels that he trusts with, I guess, some of the bigger picture stuff. So it'd be cool to see that, I guess, be shown in the storytelling for the potential projects that are tied to his name right now.
Yeah, according to that article, though, it's Kathleen Kennedy that made the call to bring him on. And I hope it's not that whole thing of, we get along, he plays ball, and that's why we're bringing in Simon Kinberg. I don't like that, man. There's so many other creators out there that you can give a shot that can create something out of love and passion for Star Wars. That when I heard the news, I was like, it just sounds like another kind of retread type of hire in a way. And I would want for anything to this trilogy to rival the original trilogy, but I'm just kind of realistic and looking at the past, and hopefully it's something just tremendous. Maybe like a lot of us, maybe it's something that he's been thinking about as a kid, and he implements that, and he has a lot of ideas that have never been shown before and that are really interesting and awesome and deep and add something to the lore that we've never seen before, which there's a lot of legend stuff and a lot of stories already written and have been written and are currently being written.
Yeah, and so with the timeline, they have a lot of great opportunity. There is the James Mangold film coming out, and the working title is Dawn of the Jedi, and that's going to be really interesting and intriguing. I also feel like there's a lot of pressure on James Mangold for that film, because that film is going to be the biblical side of the Force, of what makes the light side and what makes the dark side the dark side. And you have a lot of pressure because Star Wars is heavily surrounded by the Force. It's what, it's what binds the galaxy together. So it is going to be something that I'm excited about, but I'm also, cautiously optimistic because there's a lot of ways that you could go wrong with that if you don't play your cards right. So I am hoping for the best for that. And then everything with the High Republic shortly will be out of that realm, most likely, where we'll probably just getting more comics and stuff going forward. If Star Wars Eclipse does end up happening, it's still listed as a game for the future. If it does, I'm really curious on how that's going to be. The Acolyte kind of changed the way that some fans looked at the Acolyte. It wasn't for everyone, and that's totally fine. I enjoyed it for the most part. There were some things where I was just like, oh, okay, that's an interesting take, but I'm okay with it. And it's just I'm hoping that with the future of the High Republic, we'll get to the part that I really, really, really wanted to see, which was where we fall into the events of the Phantom Menace, because of the High Republic eventually was going to transition into what we see in the prequels. And that was the time that I really was looking forward to. So I hope down the road that we do see that. And then there's so many other great stories that they could do. Season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, of where they could bring back Black Chrysanthemum and do that story of how Black Chrysanthemum got his scar on his eye. Because if you go to the comics, you know that he got it from Obi-Wan. We do see Black Chrysanthemum with the scar in the Book of Boba Fett, so it's hinted at that comic being true. I'd love to see that in live action. It'd be awesome. There is a endless possibilities of stories that they could do. Rogue Squadron. I was just going back and watching some old films with pilots and stuff, and just a full out film about of the Empire and the Rebel Alliance, so of just being X-Wings and TIE fighters would be awesome. And that's what Rogue Squadron was supposed to be. So I really hope that we get that one day. I know it's still in development, but I would really love to see that. I think that movie would be amazing. It would even do great as a show. So there's so many things that they could do, and I hope that we get more soon. I love The Mandalorian. It is a phenomenal show, and I'm glad that it's turning into a movie. But there's more aspects of Star Wars than the Mandalorian universe, and I really hope that we get there soon. Because there's so much potential there. So he was open.
Yeah, when you said connecting the High Republic to the Phantom Menace, I immediately thought billion-dollar film, mega hit TV show would be a young Palpatine Plagueis thing,
Yeah, yeah.
That would be so great. I think that would be easy money.
Yeah, call it the Rule of Two or something. That'd be incredible.
It writes itself, man. We're writing it right now.
Yeah.
We're out here, Lucasfilm.
Did you see the concept art that they had for Darth Plagueis for Acolyte?
He looked so good, dude.
Yeah. Oh man, so much potential. I just hope that we, because sometimes when shows or movies get canceled, they have a continuation of it in a comic or a book, and that's great and all, but it's just it's something that we could have had, and I just hope that we they end up, doing the continuation of Acolyte, but it ends up being, Plagueis or the Rule of Two. That is a perfect title for the show right there, because it doesn't say, hey, it's just about Plagueis and Sidious and Chimera and everything. That opens up a whole other realm of meaning, and they could definitely go down that path. It's again, like David said, it writes itself. It's right there. Just do it. A great Dark Lord of the Sith once said, do it. Just do it.
Dang, dude,
Like,
you're
come
hyping
on.
me up. I mean, how cool would it be to see, like, I don't know, Chimere and Plagueis travel to Naboo or something, and they find a young Sheev Palpatine, and like Palpatine and Chimere duke it out to like be the
Come
apprentice
on,
for.
man.
Oh man, wouldn't that be so sweet?
Yes,
Imagine like a
it's
battle at Theed of Chimere and Palpatine.
right.
Maybe not even Theed, but like I don't know. There's
Well,
possibilities are
I
endless.
mean, the plot of the show could be Chimere and Sidious like just fighting for that spot of
Being
being
rivals.
Darth Plagueis's like, apprentice. And then the other plot is the Emperor is doing that as a ruse because eventually he will take over like that number one spot. So it's just like there's just so much they could do with it, so many different plot points, so many new characters they could introduce, some old characters that they could reintroduce, and it's right there. Oh man, that is a good title, Zach. Rule of two. Just do it, guys. Please. Man.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff writes itself. I mean, it's not going to take. I mean, like just bring in a fan that's a creator, that's a proven creator. They can do it, just like what Favreau did with the Mandalorian. Look what he did with the Mandalorian. It was so great. You do the same thing with movies, TV shows. I mean, let's go. So the next thing I want to talk about is the greatest of all time film,
John Williams,
which is, of course, we all know. If you're listening to this podcast, you know who he is. So yes.
Did you guys watch the documentary?
Of course.
I haven't seen it yet. I was planning to watch it tomorrow, but
Zach.
I'm guessing John Williams is in it.
We're going to boot Zach here from the podcast. Let me find it. So yes, John Williams, the great John Williams, the understated, the greatest of all time film composer, John Williams. That's the John Williams we're talking about. And I was thinking about it too. He's not really talked about enough with all the great scores that he's created, and just the moments and just memories that the world has. I mean, going to the movies. I mean, it's not just Star Wars. It's E.T., Jurassic Park, Schindler's List. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on.
I really enjoyed it because of not only because when Disney does certain things, they don't get the right to all that stuff. So I was glad in the documentary that he was able to talk about all of his projects that were not, included in the realm of Lucasfilm and Disney. And I loved that because that, gave you more of an insight of who John Williams is. I've been a big fan for a long time, and I already knew a decent amount about him, but I learned so much more in this documentary. So
yes, you do learn a lot.
Yeah, like I mean, for example, he was known as a jazz composer and a jazz musician before he was known, as this amazing composer of film and genre and everything. So and what, David, he did like 38 different TV film scores before he started doing Star Wars.
Yeah, he did a ton of TV work, and then after all that, after like a complete career, just about, he met Steven Spielberg when he was 40 years old. So once he met him, of course, it's all like history, but well-known history. But yeah, then of course he was Spielberg was friends with George Lucas, and Steven Spielberg brought up John Williams to George Lucas, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you mean the jazz composer?" And George Lucas is on the documentary stating that he went through kind of like a stage in life where he was really into jazz when he was younger, and he knew about him then. And Steven Spielberg, of course, recommended him, and of course, it's all history. But I mean, just one of the most iconic scores, and he's got many iconic scores on his resume. It's weird to talk about John Williams like he's a normal human, but that's the only way we can talk about him, because just one of those scores would be like a legendary career for any film composer. But I mean, you think about it: Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Star Wars, of course, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter at the very end. When he did Ray's theme, it's so recognizable. The stuff, all the people in the documentary that are talking about him. You have like Seth MacFarlane, Kathleen Kennedy, of course, is in there. You have so many like popular musicians. Branford Marsalis, I knew him from The Tonight Show, and I knew he was like a big jazz guy. And he talks a little bit about his jazz career. And he said when you hear certain things like the cantina music, you're like, yeah, that's a jazz guy that wrote that. You can totally tell. And I mean, just the remarkable career and the life that he's lived. I mean, he's in his 90s and he's still going. He's still doing shows at the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah.
Our good friend and Patreon member Adam's telling us the other day about going to one of his concerts.
Go do it, Adam.
Like, yeah, it's he's getting up there in age, man, to the point where he's not going to be able to do them anymore. And Colin and I were so lucky in 2017 to witness John Williams live and in person at Star Wars Celebration Orlando.
Yeah,
and it was a shock to us all because we had no idea he was there, and everyone just assumed he wouldn't be there because he didn't really fly much anymore. And I mean, it's one of like our core memories now. And then when we went to the Anaheim 2022 celebration, he was there as well with Harrison Ford again. And yeah, we get to say that we've seen John Williams live twice in front of our eyeballs.
That's super cool.
So cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get bigger than John Williams. I mean, he's at the top of the hill.
Yeah,
he gonna go down.
He is like the Beethoven of our time. Like, he is such a rare composer. He's such a rare human being. And in the documentary, he like says something on the lines of, this is my way of expressing my love for music and for film and for life, something in the lines of that. And it's just like, it just hypes you up. I don't think there's any day I'm in my life where I haven't listened to John Williams at least once. I listen to John Williams every day, guys.
You show me every year at the end of the year in your Spotify Wrap, the most listened to artist is John Williams. I'm like, okay, Colin's not lying about being a Star Wars fan.
No, like it just hypes me up every time. Like, every single score that John Williams does is great. There was the movie, the BFG that came out. It was a film by Disney, and I sat there and I didn't know it was by John Williams until I started hearing the music, and I'm like, that's John Williams. And my friend like that was sitting right next to me was like, dude, you're crazy. That's not John Williams. And we watched the credits, and sure enough, it was. And I was like, I like know his music without knowing it's him. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, he is such a fantastic composer, and I really, really hope that with these next upcoming Star Wars projects that we get some new Star Wars themes in there here and there. Because even at this age, he keeps saying he loves working. He loves making new, coming up with new work and everything. So I hope that keeps happening, because he is such a joy and he brings so much joy. And to be honest, if you think about it, if you take the music out of Star Wars, it wouldn't be as exciting. It really wouldn't. Like, you would jump to the fight between Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Darth Maul, and then I couldn't imagine any other like theme that would work with it. Like, you just can't. And that's with all of his music and every single other like movie scene now that involves his music. You can't think of any other type of theme that would work with it. And that's how one of a kind of a human being that John Williams is. He's so creative and he just puts so much thought into it, and he's incredible. So I can't wait to see what happens next with his career. But
yeah. I love the story of him coming back to write a theme for Obi-Wan in the Kenobi series, because he hadn't written, he's written a theme for Leia, for Luke, a bunch of stuff for Anakin, and like, Obi-Wan, I've never really just soloed him out with his own theme, and I thought that was really cool. That, I mean, he keeps coming out of retirement, right? But he just keeps cooking, and he is easily on the Mount Rushmore of composers, like for all time, right? I mean, I don't know if I were to put a Mount Rushmore.
Who are the other three, Zach?
Gosh, dude, I don't know if I can name three more, but I don't know, Beethoven, I think, has got to be up there kind of by default, right? Not to discredit his work, but everyone knows who Beethoven is for a good reason, right?
Howard
Yeah,
Shore,
who
like
else?
Hans Zimmer, like I mean, come on,
Yeah.
bro. But yeah,
Yeah, Alan Silvestri.
yeah,
Hans
yeah.
Zimmer's the closest, but it's not even close.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
which is insane. But yeah, the documentary, like we talked about, me and Colin, you find out a lot of information about his upbringing when he was a kid. I got some pictures of John Williams as a kid. And right there, if you read the captions there, it says he never really had other aspirations. He did like to play baseball. He had to play piano, and then he got to play baseball. But yeah, him as a young boy. And of course, immediately when you see these pictures, I think a lot of us do this. But you think about, man, what if you had a time machine? You can go back in time and meet a young John Williams.
Man.
So yeah,
Crazy.
just as a young guy, I mean, he's almost like unrecognizable, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he was born in 1932. It's wild. And Spielberg, when he met him, he looked like this, and he's like, "Yeah, he reminded me a little bit of William Shakespeare."
Yeah.
Which, of course, yeah, that's not hyperbolic, man. I mean, the guy is up there. I would consider him like up there with the Shakespeares of the world. So, yeah, terrific documentary. Go out to Disney Plus. You can watch it right now. It's entitled "Music by John Williams." Just type in John Williams; it'll pop up. It's the first thing. It was released on November 1st, so it's been out a little bit of time here. But I'll read kind of the synopsis a little bit here. And it's everyone who talks about John Williams. Music by John Williams is an all-new documentary on the life and career of the legendary composer. We'll have a limited theatrical release. I didn't know that. And begin streaming November 1st on Disney Plus. The documentary features interviews with Steven Spielberg, Kathleen Kennedy, Frank Marshall, Kate Capshaw, Gustavo Dudamel, J.J. Abrams, Chris Martin, Ron Howard, Chris Columbus, George Lucas, Itzhak Perlman, Lawrence Kasdan, Yo-Yo Ma, Kiwi Kwan, James Mangold, Alan Silvestri, David Newman, Thomas Newman, Seth MacFarlane, Annie Sophie Mutter, and Branford Marcellus, whose lives have all been touched by John Williams' timeless music, and directed by Laurent Boussereau, and produced by Steven Spielberg, Brian Grazer, Ron Howard, Del Frank, Justin Valve, Sarah Bernstein, Justin Wilkes, Meredith Kalfers, Kathleen Kennedy, Frank Marshall, and Laurent Boussereau. And it's rated PG. Yeah, so go check it out if you haven't. Zach, you need to go check it out. Man.
Definitely.
And I was thinking before that I saw it the first time, and I was like, okay, I saw it. And I was going to come on here and say that it's not really as rewatchable as I'd like for it to be, but doing research for the podcast, I started watching and I couldn't take my eyes off of it. So maybe I was wrong there. So yeah, there's a lot of information. It draws you in if you're a big Star Wars fan, big John Williams fan of film composing. This is a documentary you need to check out if you haven't done so already.
Absolutely. Speaking of music, did you see the news about Skeleton Crew?
No.
Okay. So, and I am going to mispronounce his name because I have a speech impediment, so bear with me. But it is Michael Giacchino. Yes, his son is doing the music for Skeleton Crew, which is super cool. And he recently just did the music for the Penguin series that was on HBO.
Right.
And
see, Michael Giacchino, I would put maybe in that Mount Rushmore with John Williams, but John Williams is way at the top though. Giacchino has a tiny head on that mountain, but he's great.
He did Rogue One.
I just love how I just love how his son is following in his footsteps, and that he's going to be doing the music for Skeleton Crew. So I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really great. I like that. And just a side note, Giacchino is a director too. He directed the Werewolf by Night special that came out a couple years back. It's
I just
really
watched that
good.
for the first time like a week ago.
Yeah, cool. And then for Halloween, it's a good Halloween watch. Yeah, definitely. Sure. All right, guys. So the next thing that's on the board here that we need to talk about is D23 Brazil. Yeah. Did any of you guys go to it?
No.
I mean, I was at Epcot. I mean, right? Like, no, I'm just kidding.
No, you were at Epcot, right?
Well, yeah, but yeah, it
Orlando,
was terrible.
right?
Yeah, it was a terrible Disney joke. Sorry. But yeah, no.
Well, hey, I mean that's pretty close. I mean that's closer than Zach and I.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Here's the thing: is that they really didn't release any new info except confirming that Pedro Pascal is, he's part of the film officially, which there were rumors for a long time that he wasn't going to be because he's busy with all this other stuff, but they confirmed it. And also Sigourney Weaver's involvement officially, that has been kind of, on the fence for a bit, theories, not 100% confirmation, but we got it. And then they showed the exact footage that they showed over at D23 in Anaheim, and they show the same Andor stuff, and they showed the same stuff that they did for the Mandalorian Grogu movie. So nothing really new. The only big news that we got besides the Pedro Pascal and Sigourney Weaver news is that Andor is coming out on April 22nd of next year. What does this mean for Star Wars fans? If you are going to Star Wars Celebration, most likely you will be able to get into the lottery system to go watch it. That's what they normally do for stuff like this. They will do a Lucasfilm panel. They'll do like a big panel. They'll, have Andor part of the show. They'll probably show like a final trailer or something, or they'll talk about highlights, and then they'll be like, for everyone in the audience, congratulations, you are going to the screening. And they'll probably show like the first episode or 2 episodes of the show before the rest of the public. Star Celebration is from April 17th to the 20th. So if you have a chance to go to Star Celebration, good luck on the lottery system. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with it this year. I was this close to dealing with it, but no, I'm not.
There's a little interesting wrinkle now in the whole lottery system thing.
Apparently. Oh yeah, yes.
You were telling me kind of this. Like gone under the radar, but apparently you can buy tickets and associated to one email if you bought them originally for one email, and then you can actually assign separate tickets to different emails. So when you do enter the lottery, you can actually have more of a chance for you or your buddies to get in, somebody in your group or family to get in. So it might benefit you to do that. That's one thing we kind of thought of. But yeah, other than that, yeah, the big Andor announcement, nothing really significant, even for like all the other properties that I had up on the screen here. So like Pixar, Marvel, not really big news that they dropped.
Well, I will say Marvel actually crushed it. They actually dropped a new. Yes, they actually dropped a full new trailer for Captain America and Thunderbolts. I think they showed exclusive footage of Fantastic Four there, but they didn't show to the public yet. They're really holding Fantastic Four really, really tight to the chest, and I understand why, because Fantastic Four is a big deal.
And closing that one.
Yep, and they also dropped a trailer for season 3 and the final season of What If. Yep. So there is, I think Marvel did pretty well.
Well, they did way light years better than Star Wars, but I mean, still, we didn't get like a new announcement type situation. That's what I was kind of looking for.
Star Wars right now is kind of in that limbo of being like, we're on the verge to become, like blow up again, but we're not at that point yet. So the only big thing happening next year is Andor season 2. And then you got the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. And then you have yes, and then you have Star Celebration. So once Star Celebration hits, that's when it's going to be like the realm of like blowing up. I will not be there. I will be dying inside, and I will be calling David every hour. But
I'll have the cell phone taped to my chest with FaceTime on permanently with a large battery powering it.
For legal reasons, that's a joke. But yeah, no, I'm excited for next year just because of that is going to be like a big year for Revenge of the Sith, and
Yeah.
I love how it's gotten so much more love over the years, of how the prequels just in general have gotten more love over the years, and it's just nice to know that the younger version of myself, if like I told them back then, hey, you're not alone, I would if I could, because this movie means so much to so many of us. And I think one big moment for me was when we went to SpaceCon and I saw the look of excitement coming from Zach, and that really showed you that of how much Star Wars means to people. And I think Zach was a very big indication that the excitement and fandom is definitely alive, and that was like Zach for me. And I think that's how David felt about me when like he first met me, just of how excited I was and everything. So it's just like it's really nice when you see that spark in someone, and that was definitely Zach at SpaceCon. So I know that we're definitely going to be getting more of that next year, because it's going to be the 20th anniversary of that film in particular. But yeah, so
you bet.
It's going to be awesome.
That's so cool, dude. There's a lot to be excited about, and I mean, on top of that, I know it's not a release, but Ahsoka season 2 starts filming, I think, first quarter next year. If I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw an article about it starting early next year for filming. So maybe they'll have a little sizzle or something they could show off at Celebration and kind of get that hype rolling a little bit more. Because while Colin and I were driving down to SpaceCon, he said, "Hey, they announced new 4K Steelbook releases for what was it? Ahsoka and Mando season 3, and then Marvel had, I think, Loki season 2 and Hawkeye to get."
Yep.
I think they're up for pre-order now on like Amazon and Walmart, and they come out December 3. But yeah, I don't know. Ahsoka season 2 is definitely a project I'm really looking forward to.
Man, I was so sad. I walked into a Best Buy this past weekend and they had 0 movies.
Oh, dude, that kills me. That's like the only reason I went to Best Buy. I'm crushed.
And they didn't have any Star Wars cards. I bought some Star Wars cards there a while back, and I got a 1 of 20 Mando card, and I still need to get that
number
thing graded.
1?
Yeah, 1 of 20, number 1. So, yeah, the next thing that we want to talk about here is some Black Series that got dropped. Were you guys aware of the drops that actually have some resonance with us in regard to SpaceCon?
I saw a little bit. I didn't see all of it.
Of what?
Some Black Series drops.
Oh yeah. Oh well. Tell me what they are.
All right.
Because that weekend is kind
show
of like
you
blending
what they are.
Yeah.
So here's the screen here. So we have, for the first time ever, I believe, Shaq T Black Series, Black Series Sebulba, and a Black Series Luminara Unduli. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And how it has to do with like SpaceCon, our
and Adam,
awesome friend, Adam. Zach beat me to the punch there.
Sorry.
He actually purchased Shakti's Leku and brought them to Darkside Pizza. And he showed it to us, and there they are. And you can see the action figure to the side. And cool. You can see Colin in his amazement.
Very cool. Yeah.
They feel exactly like you think they would. But
nope.
It's weird.
Nope. Not at all. Not at all.
What?
I was
to
not.
Me, that was totally the case.
So like, I think I might be different just because I'm coming from a person that does costumes and I'm kind of more in that realm. So I was expecting something different. I was not expecting for okay, Adam. Jeez. Okay. But yeah. So no, I thought it was really cool. I wasn't expecting it to feel the way that it did. I didn't expect it to be like full out foam. And it was. And it shows you like how well they did with the paint job on it. Even now, how the way it looks. I didn't think it was going to be foam. I thought it was going to be a different type of silicone, but it worked pretty well. And it makes more sense of why it kind of gave it more of that natural look. But if you're doing action scenes and stuff now, it's completely different because they did like a 3D print like skeleton of the Leku, and then they put a layer over it. But yeah, no, it's super cool, and I love how far technology has come. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's super awesome.
Super cool.
I kind of in agreement with Zach. When I touched it for the first time, it was like it totally felt organic in a way. And of course, that is like it feels like a wet foam, like kind of like the original memory foam beds that like got real popular in the first part of the century. So yeah, that's kind of what it felt like. And yeah, Adam owns his stuff, so super cool.
Both of them.
Yeah, and as you can see on the screen there, you see the Black Series figures, and there's also Skeleton Crew Black Series figures of the main characters that we know about. I totally want to get that Brutus figure at the top right, the Wolfman. And of course, he looks like he's a pirate. And of course, Neil, who I think we all thought was an Ortolan, but apparently he is not.
Do you really have to bring that up? I mean,
what if that's the big
he
twist
could be a
of
direct
the
cousin
season?
of Ortolan.
Yeah, I don't okay. I don't understand why, and I know someone's gonna explain it to me, soon, like most likely. But why would you make a species very similar to Max Rebo and not have it be the same species? Why? Why on earth wouldn't you make a different color? Why that specific, way to make him look the way that he does? Why on earth would you tease us? Just why? Explain it to me, please.
So there's a theory out there that yes, he was specifically designed to be Max Rebo species, but once they started figuring out like the costume, they figured it wasn't going to work the way they wanted to. So they kind of pivoted to this other very Max Rebo-ish looking character, alien species. So, I mean, maybe the kid couldn't breathe in the mask. Maybe, I mean, is he wearing a mask? Is he wearing dots on his face? I guess we don't really know that until we kind of see behind the scenes stuff. So I guess we're kind of waiting for that. But yeah, there's going to be Black Series of Skeleton Crew. It looks like you can purchase them now. And I think a couple of them have, maybe not have Skeleton Crew, but several Black Series have sold out on Hasbro Pulse's website. So pick them up quickly if you can. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about, and I think we mentioned this a little bit, Daisy Ridley. There's a rumor that now her Rey character is going to be more of like a mentor, like an Obi-Wan figure. And I think that's what I kind of assumed when we initially got that news of her being in a movie. There's reports that she was only going to be in it for like 15, 20 minutes or something. And then all of a sudden people ran with, it's the Rey movie. It's all about Rey. And Rey's going to be 15 years older, which I believe is official. And then there's opportunity for John Boyega to be in the movie. But that's kind of originally how I saw her, as like an Obi-Wan figure. And if this standalone movie is something, maybe they could turn that into the episodic films, because that feels like right in the pocket of what you would want an episodic film to be, having Rey, Daisy Ridley carry over from the previous trilogy to the next trilogy, and you don't have to have her so much be like the main figure. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely was kind of thinking more like you, David, having her be more of a mentor role. It's kind of how, I guess, if you look at the first episode of each trilogy, that there's always been like an Obi-Wan character. I mean, there was episode 4 was Obi-Wan, but just like a mentor character that kind of helps guide the new protagonist into the overall story. I think there would be a lot of really cool and unique opportunities for Rey to be that character. I think there's a lot of potential there, and that's definitely my wish and my want. But if she got a solo movie and was the main character, I mean, I think it'd be cool on the flip side also, but I definitely lean more towards her being the master, and getting to see how she's applied her Jedi knowledge over the past I guess 15 years of her aging in between the episode 9 ending and then where this movie picks up. Colin, what are you thinking?
Well, at this point, if the rumors end up being true, they do episode 10 through 12. I really think that they should just make this movie episode 10. I don't know. Again, I really enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed Ray, I enjoyed Poe and Finn, and just everyone just part of that series. I just don't know how I feel about them continuing the story. Rise of Skywalker ended. Let's end it with that. I don't really think that a continuation is the best call. Going back to how we started the podcast, I think going back, the Old Republic, the whole concept of the rule of two, diving deeper into that realm. I don't know if going forward is the best choice, but again, I'm a big fan of Star Wars, and I will be there in the theater watching it with all of you. But it's just, I don't know if going forward is the best call. It could be, because we could go into the realm of exploring new planets, species. It would be great. I think more importantly, I think the main thing I'm focusing on is them continuing the Skywalker story. I don't want them to. They've already had the opportunity to with the sequel trilogy. The way that they handled Luke Skywalker was kind of questionable. And I just hope that, like, going forward with this new era of Star Wars with Rey, if she ends up being the lead or she ends up having the Obi-Wan Kenobi type role, I want them to not touch on the Skywalkers anymore. Let them rest. Rey buried the Skywalker sabers at the end of Rise of Skywalker for a reason. Let them stay there. Let them rest. Let Luke and Leia rest. We don't need more stories with them going forward. I think there's more stuff to do in the past. So if they do new stuff with Rey and the sequel crew, let it be with just the sequel crew. We don't need to bring in the Skywalkers anymore. That's just my opinion. But yeah, so that's how I feel.
Yeah, Darth Beard on YouTube says they said they didn't want another episodic run. Why not just start a new run of movies minus the episode moniker? They could do that. It feels like maybe that's going to happen, possibly. But then again, I mean, they could intervene, like kind of like taking the crawl out from the front of Rogue One, which I think was a little bit of a mistake there, which they've kind of gone back on and said, yeah, we're going to have the crawl again. We're going to have the fanfare and stuff. So we shall see with all that. And of course, all the other creators out there that are doing projects. It's like, if it's true that Rian Johnson has a trilogy, then Simon Kinberg has a trilogy. And that's a lot of trilogies, man. That's a lot of work. Yeah. That's a lot of investment there. So, I mean, at this point, I think a lot of people feel like Rian Johnson's trilogy is never going to see the light of day. But, I mean, he's still kind of out there, and Kathleen Kennedy seems to not be going anywhere. So, yeah, she made the call bringing on Simon Kinberg, according to reports. Of course, it's not official. No official announcement has been made. But somebody did say that Simon Kinberg posted this on his social media. So, I mean, that tells you right there it's legit. So, we have that. So, the last thing that I want to touch on for this podcast here is in regards to the unfortunate passing of the legend Greg Hildebrandt. You see there, if you're watching us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the iconic picture there that he's standing next to. He created that picture along with his brother. And on Lucasfilm.com, you can see the article that they posted. He just recently passed. So Greg Hildebrandt, 1939 to 2024. The artist and his brother created the original blue Star Wars artwork in just 36 hours. And actually, this poster was given to theater goers back in 1977 at some theaters. And my brother's wife's brother actually got one of these posters, and they put it up in the attic. and they just recently pulled it out of the attic. It wasn't mint condition or anything, but he's now framed it, and he has it in his entertainment room. So yeah, I've seen the poster up close, and yeah, it looks just like that. Lucasfilm was saddened to learn of the passing of artist Greg Hildebrandt, who, with his brother Tim, painted the iconic brilliant blue Star Wars artwork that was used prolifically throughout the original Star Wars A New Hope marketing and merchandising campaigns of the late 1970s. He was 85. In just 36 hours, Greg Hildebrandt and his brother Tim, who passed away in 2006, famously painted the now ubiquitous poster artwork that has become inseparable with the early Star Wars phenomenon itself. The brothers Hildebrandt, as they were known, had become wildly popular in the 70s for their lush and epic illustrations of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings saga, which appeared in calendars, art books, posters, and other merchandise. Their fanciful style caught the attention of George Lucas, who was looking to capture that same magical spirit to sell his new space epic, while artist Tom Jung designed the familiar Luke and Leia pose before a looming Darth Vader, which would ultimately be used for the film's release poster. The Hildebrandt's version was the one widely circulated among fans, with the media appearing on T-shirts, buttons, pin-up posters, and newspaper ads during the initial months of the campaign. Based on the success and resonance of the artwork, Lucasfilm reached out to the brothers once again in 1996 for the Shadows of the Empire campaign, a multimedia event taking place in the years between Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars The Return of the Jedi. The brothers turned in 100 pieces of new artwork based on the storyline, which were published as a card, series, and an art book. The brothers again returned to Star Wars Galaxy for the Star Wars The Phantom Menace, this time filling the Star Wars Great Big Flat Book with scores of new illustrations based on the film, becoming rare artistic contributors to both trilogies. Most recently, Greg Hildebrandt created the stunning artwork that adorned the Star Wars Oreo packaging, which we handed out a ton of Oreos in the past two conventions down here in San Antonio, which featured many of the heroes and villains from the Star Wars saga. While Greg and Tim's vast portfolio of artwork will likely be celebrated for generations to come, it's the original luminous 1977 poster graphic that will live long in the hearts of Star Wars fans, created by two brothers whose talents and aesthetic sense produce a perfect balance of heroism, darkness, adventure, and possibility. Greg Hildebrandt, the second half of that inspired and timeless masterpiece, will be missed. So, as another side note to that iconic piece of art, it's actually on a case on my podcast laptop. So if you see me in Japan, you might see my case as well, and it's pretty rad. It was the coolest Star Wars case that I found. It's that iconic artwork. So yeah, total legend. And as I mentioned, there was a poster that was given out, handed to people freely when Star Wars premiered in 1977.
Wow.
But yeah, incredible piece of art. It's iconic every time you see it. And it's one of those kind of interesting things that you see it and yeah, you know it's Star Wars, but it's like almost like a separate like line of art compared to like the cover of like the VHS and the theatrical posters, but you know it's Star Wars. It was created for Star Wars, and it's iconic along with the original trilogy. So guys, do you have any thoughts on the artwork?
It just screams classic Star Wars to me, and I mean that's exactly what it is, and I definitely think it's going to stand the test of time and be iconic for, I guess, I don't know, as long as I'm around, and I'm sure past my time of just initial Star Wars art, and it looks incredible.
There was a couple that I met in it was over at SpaceCon. I was over at the line for Ahmed Best, but they also came to our booth too. David, they were the ones that were dressed up as Indiana Jones and Marin Ravenwood, and then the next day they were dressed up as Han Solo and Princess Leia, and then she had like the Greedo, and then I said like, this is why Han shot first or something. But that costume that she was wearing was this poster version of Leia, and they were trying to get it approved in the Rebel Legion. So I love how inspiring that poster is to get other people to wear that classic Leia and that Luke Skywalker look. And that's like a classic pose too of Luke just holding up the lightsaber over his head like that. Is just, yes, it's them. I was talking to them and she was saying that they were in the works of trying to get that approved for the Rebel Legion of that version of Leia. Not where she's wearing Greedo on her chest, but of just of the outfit in general. But yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, these two were awesome at SpaceCon. Every day they came in as something different, a different cosplay. They're awesome to talk to. I think they won a few things from our table. So yeah. Mr. Hildebrandt, major contributor to Star Wars and its legacy. And I'm glad that your artwork was as awesome as it was. And I honestly, I didn't know who actually produced that, and not until his passing I learned who actually created the artwork. So yeah, that is the show. I want to thank everyone for watching us and listening to us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, of course, legionsabers.com. Go there. I've had the banner running all podcast on video here. Use our code STUFF at checkout. Get 15% off. Spend over $300 until Black Friday. Get a free bracelet lightsaber. Of course, you can find us on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Instagram, we're at Star Wars Stuff Pod. Twitter, you can find us at Stuff Pod. Threads, we're at Star Wars Stuff Podcast. Also, we're on Patreon, of course. We shout out all of our top tier patrons every episode. Hang out with us at conventions. We hung out with Adam. We saw Darth Ace 1 for a little while. You guys are super cool. And we also met Evan Opaker in London for a little bit. And I wish we could have hung out with him a whole lot longer. And also shout out to Becky, who came up to us and talked to us for a while, took pictures with us. And also Abraham, who helped Colin and Zach in the parking lot there. Sure. We're also on TikTok, Star Wars Stuff Podcast, email, starstuffpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, we're on Facebook too. We have a page and a group. Join if you can, if you're on Facebook. And that is it, guys. Zach, Colin, anything else left to say, to cover?
Go to Buc-ee's.
Go to Buc-ee's.
Max Rebo has 4 limbs.
Okay, so Zach made a reference to Buc-ee's. So Buc-ee's actually has Star Wars stuff. They have official licensed Star Wars stuff, and Colin bought some. That's unbelievable.
Yes.
I didn't think Buc-ee's could get any cooler. But yeah, so Buc-ee's isn't a sponsor of the show, but yeah, Buc-ee's is really cool. I always stop there on my long trips. And so
check out stuff over at Roosevelt's. They have a lot of cool dress shirts. I think my entire wardrobe for work is those shirts. So I want to check them out. Yeah.
Oh wow. And you just wear like a name tag.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. For Zach, Colin, my name's David, and may the force be with you.
Always.